week's agenda.
It was part of the budget.
Thanks.
Just for the purpose of the audience, we're going to go through the articles that are proposed. Those will be finally voted on at our next meeting on Monday. And the warrant will be signed, and shortly thereafter, the printed warrant for town meeting will be distributed to everybody with, yes, Mrs. Castro?
Mr. Sarah, before you go through the warrant articles, may I ask the favor of the board to be able to approach the microphone to give you a Stanford Children update and make a public comment?
Yes.
Mr. Castro, before you start, I just received information, the school committee voted a budget of $24,197,341.
Say that again, please.
$24,197,341.
Which means what?
Pulling up Greg's presentation now, but I just wanted to let everyone know I just received that.
Level funds was 24,031,464.
So how much was that?
I'm sorry?
24,031,464.
And that was level funding.
What are they? Available funds.
So
Available.
What did they do?
they have a deficit of
166.
166, looks like, is what their,
What were their numbers?
24,197,341 is a budget they
The
voted.
extra circuit breaker money, that's probably what
So
it
they
is.
factored it in.
So the
Sorry.
school committee's factoring in addition, yeah, but that money comes in directly to them. That's interesting.
Well, it was 310 this evening, the
Right.
deficit was 310. So there's something else that they had done.
Let's put it down.
All right, well, we'll find out.
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Selectmen, thank you for giving me just a minute to address the board. I apologize for not being here at 7 o'clock, and it's certainly not because I don't care about what was going on in the community or regarding the school comments or anything that was made tonight. I was absent only because I was participating in a Stand for Children conference call. It was a town hall call with members of the legislature and also members of the governor's office. And I'm pleased to announce that it was actually attended by 20,000 people. This conference call had 20,000 people on it, which is incredible. And the reason for the conference call and the town hall meeting was about health plan design. So it's timely that we have this conversation. We are going to the State House tomorrow. Hopefully we will all, go and advocate in support of the House Ways and Means budget that calls for the plan design changes that have been put forward. And we're also going to, hit pretty hard the special education circuit breaker, which is very timely based on what you said. I do believe that what happened across town tonight is that the school department's original budget included 40% for the circuit breaker. My understanding is they were going to, propose that it be 60%. I'd asked Representative Jones how he felt about that. He said if he was a betting man, he'd actually go for 50%. We can have that conversation with him again tomorrow. But I also wanted to say that I missed the comments that the parents may have mentioned tonight. I missed whatever feedback you might have given, and I apologize again for that. But I did want to make sure that North Reading was in the best position tomorrow to advocate on behalf of health plan design, which could save millions of dollars not only this year but every year. I also wanted to say that I understand and I appreciate and I'm extremely grateful for all the compromises and the cooperation that this board has shown the school department, not only this year, but in the last several. But I also wanted to say that if it's your intention or if it's your position that you will not provide any more resources to the school department this year is because unions or labor has not agreed to any compromises, let me just remind you that the unfortunate thing about that is if there wasn't a strategy in place a year ago, knowing that this was the most difficult, tumultuous economic situation we were ever going to have, and if at every finance planning team meeting, this wasn't the agenda item for unions to give up money and to make compromises for you to go and support the school budget, I'm not sure that that makes a lot of sense or is very fair for the actual children that it's going to impact if that actually wasn't the strategy a year ago, and that we didn't go to those unions a year ago, that the first time I actually heard in public that we were not going to do anything more if the unions didn't concede was just 2 weeks ago at a school committee hearing. So if that was going on in public, in private sessions behind the scenes, I'd like to hear it. But if it wasn't, I'm not sure that that's a position I feel comfortable with, knowing that 7th graders next year could potentially be sitting in a study hall, which would place them 2/3 of their day in a study hall, while our 6th and 8th graders are still sitting in study halls. And that we're going to eliminate some of the technology resources that we have in our school system. In fact, the only remaining technology specialist. I realize what the school committee did across town tonight was very optimistic. However, the legislature has not given us permission to use 60%. So I'm going to appeal to you as a board, as citizens, as parents, as people that make important decisions on behalf of all of us. If the worst case scenario happens, if the health plan design doesn't come to fruition, and I'm very optimistic that it will, and we're gonna take as many people as it takes to keep advocating for that, and we're gonna keep fighting for it. We're gonna work on the circuit breaker as we've done for years, and I'm very hopeful that perhaps this will be the tipping point year when they bring the rates up from 40 to 60 or 70%. But if those two things don't happen, and the school budget is now predicated on it, I will not go to town meeting quietly. I will not go quietly and allow 7th graders to sit in another study hall. I will not do it. That's not okay. We have worked way too hard. I have said publicly, NRU has said publicly, and we will say it again, we expect unions and employees, teachers, everybody to make concessions and compromises. Look at the health insurance issue and make sure that as taxpayers, we can all hang our heads on the fact that we're going to make sure that the employees have proper coverage, it's cost efficient, but that we also will have money left over for the things that we value, which is education, public service, and the good work that all of our employees in our community do. We're working for that. I'm gonna implore you to not let that happen. So I know you're meeting on the 27th with the finance planning team, and I know that there'll probably be regular meetings until June 6th. We'll do everything we can to help make the situation as good as it can be. You have my word. I'm going with you tomorrow. We've been at this together. Please don't dig your heels in about employees making concessions and make that decision be the responsibility of the children who are going to be left out if that's how you're going to dig your heels in. That's not right. We can work with you, and the Court of Public Opinion, we can help consistently send a message that we need everybody to cooperate. And as long as that's going to be our position, now we have a year. We know the contracts are up next year. We'll work to make that better. But not 2 weeks ago, you can't say that there isn't time. If it's taken us years to get to this, in 2 weeks we weren't going to get those unions to make concessions. If that's the only way we were going to, support more of the schools. So again, I apologize for not being here on time. I want to remind you that we are still 68th from the bottom in per pupil spending. We're 70th from the bottom in administration spending. We're 47th from the bottom in guidance, counseling, testing. We're 51st from the bottom. When we're 168 from the bottom, or 268, then you can dig your heels in. We're getting a good bang for our buck. And these kids perform when we do the right thing, and I'm asking you to do the right thing. I appreciate the fact that you gave me the time, and I'm just going to ask you to reconsider and do the right thing for the kids. Thank you.
Deanna, just, I think we all appreciate the work that you and Stan has done, and a few of us, I'm sure, will be at the State House tomorrow morning. What you did miss was, and I think both Mr. Prisco and Mr. Delaney have spoken out, you probably heard him at the school budget hearing meeting. We've been working, trying to negotiate contracts for, Mr. Beliconis has been at it for a long time. The unions have been slow to budge. There is no additional money. There is none. We're already assuming certain adjustments, specifically in the health insurance, that are still required to be negotiated, pending what might come out of the legislature. But they're taking it down to the wire, too. School committee, you need to deliver that message back to the school department, too. The school contracts are unsustainable. And the town budget, basically, on the work that's been done and the controls that have been put in place and the contracts that have been negotiated this past year, not that we've settled any for this year, are not growing at the same rate. I'd like to move on. I thank you. Want to go through the warrant articles?
Of course. The first is the special town meeting, and you'll note that the Finance Committee has already included a number of their recommendations which are in the warrant. The first article is a budget amendment. The amount for fiscal year 2011 is to be determined. We have not identified any amount of money under this article. I've identified some exposures for 2011, and I would recommend that the board reserve its recommendation for town meeting.
Would these budget amendments are going to include the closure on snow and ice?
No, that's going to be dealt with as a separate article.
Okay, all right, okay.
This is more routine
Routine,
items of
okay.
nature. Yes.
All right. Article 24, amend. This is,
Well, I would recommend that the board, for the purposes of including your recommendation in the warrant, that you, under Article number 1 of the special town meeting, that you, there's a motion that's in the packet, so I believe Mr. Prisco has left. But there is a motion that I'd appreciate the board voting on this article, is to recommend at town meeting.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend a town meeting.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Delaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Article 2.
Article 2 is to supplement the amount that we've set aside for retirements for fiscal year 2011. The requested amount is $65,000. The amount would be secured via free cash, and it's for an unanticipated retirement that we did not foresee that took place during the course of the year, and we have a contractual right to pay the amount of money.
And is that the amount?
It is, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
I'd rather not state who the individual is.
No,
This
I
is
think
a-
the question
yes.
is, it's single or multiple retirement?
No,
It's
it's
an
one
additional retirement that wasn't budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. Yeah,
But I'm sorry, I didn't see a number on that.
$65,000.
$65,000.
See it on here, okay. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
That's to recommend. Article 3, snow and ice deficit.
The amount is $610,000, and it would be monies that would be available by using the FEMA reimbursement. I alluded to it earlier this evening, with the remaining balance being funded through free cash.
Mr. Chairman, move to recommend.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, do we hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Michael, we're voting our recommendations on the articles. Article 1 is recommended town meeting.
Yep.
Article 2 and 3 we're recommending, and Article 4 now.
Article 4, we're in the process of finalizing our estimates. We will not have available balances to transfer into the capital